The first time I saw him, I was just another student in a crowded classroom. He wasn't just a teacher, he was different. Passionate about literature, his voice carried emotions that made stories come alive. I found myself hanging onto his every word, eager to learn, to impress him, to be noticed. It started with simple questions after class. At first, they were about assignments, poetry, novels. He always answered patiently, his gaze steady but warm. Then, our conversations shifted. One day, after a particularly deep discussion on love and classic literature, he smiled and said, "You have an old soul. Most people your age don't see the depth in these words." That compliment lingered with me. I wanted to hear more. I wanted to be special. Soon, staying behind after class became a habit. He recommended books that weren't in the syllabus, ones that spoke of love, longing, and heartbreak. I read them all, eager to impress him, to decode hidden messages in his choices. Was he trying to tell me something? Or was I just imagining it? Then came the day everything changed. It was late, the hallways nearly empty. I was gathering my things when he stopped beside me. "I enjoy our conversations," he admitted. "It's rare to find someone who truly understands literature the way you do." My heart pounded. It was more than just praise. It felt personal. A part of me knew this was dangerous, but another part, the stronger part, craved his attention. The following week, he invited me to his office to discuss an essay. Sitting across from him in that quiet space, the air between us felt different, charged. He leaned closer while explaining a passage, his voice softer than usual. For the first time, I saw something in his eyes that wasn't just admiration, it was something more. I left that day feeling an unfamiliar thrill. Had I imagined it? Or had something shifted between us? Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew. A glance across the classroom. A fleeting smile. A lingering moment when our hands brushed while exchanging papers. It was unspoken, but undeniable. Then, one afternoon, as I was about to leave, he hesitated. "Would you like to meet for coffee?"
Just to talk.
Off the record. I knew what this meant. I knew the risks. But my heart had already made the decision before my mind could catch up. "Yes," I whispered. And, with that single word, everything changed. The first time we met outside the classroom, it felt surreal. Away from textbooks and lectures, he seemed different. More relaxed, more human. He listened intently as I spoke about my dreams, my fears, my love for words. He shared stories from his past, moments of regret, lessons learned. It felt like we were equals, like the invisible barrier between teacher and student no longer existed. What started as casual meetings became frequent. Coffee shops turned into evening walks, conversations stretched into late-night messages. He never said anything outright, never crossed a line with words, but the way he looked at me, the way he remembered the smallest details, it was enough to blur the boundaries. One evening, after a long conversation about a novel that explored forbidden love, silence settled between us. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with something unspoken, something waiting to be acknowledged. He reached for my hand, hesitating just for a second. But I didn't pull away. That moment was the beginning. After that, everything changed. In the classroom, we pretended nothing was different, but behind closed doors, we were something else. His presence was intoxicating. I felt seen, understood, desired. It wasn't just the thrill of secrecy, it was the way he made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. But even in those perfect moments, doubt crept in. Sometimes he would pull away, lost in thought. Sometimes he would say, "This is dangerous," but he never let go. I convinced myself that love was worth the risk, that what we had was real. Then came the night when hesitation disappeared. It wasn't planned, but it felt inevitable. A touch turned into something more, restraint gave way to desire. And in that moment, I believed in every promise his eyes made. Afterward, he held me close, whispering words I wanted to believe. That this was special, that I was different, that he had never felt this way before. And I believed him. I thought I had found something rare, something that could defy the rules of the world. I had no idea how quickly it would all fall apart. It happened unexpectedly, a conversation I was never meant to hear. I had arrived early, walking toward his office, when I heard voices inside. His tone was low but firm. The words that followed shattered everything. It was nothing serious. Just a mistake. I should have never let it happen. My heart stopped. I pressed myself against the wall, unable to move. She got attached. I need to end it before it gets out of hand. The voice that had once whispered affection now spoke of regret, as if I was nothing more than a problem to be solved. The warmth, the stolen glances, the moments I had held so close, they meant nothing to him. I wanted to burst in, to demand answers, but I couldn't. I felt sick, foolish, humiliated. I waited until the hallway was empty before stepping away, my mind racing. Every moment with him replayed in my head, now tainted by the truth. The way he had hesitated, the way he had pulled back only to pull me in again, it was never love. It was never real. That evening, I sent him a message, "We need to talk." His reply came instantly, "Not now." Later. Later never came. Days passed. He avoided me, barely meeting my eyes in class. I forced myself to sit through his lectures, pretending I wasn't breaking inside. He had moved on so easily, while I was left drowning in emotions I didn't know how to control. I confronted him after class, demanding the truth. He sighed, running a hand through his hair like he was exhausted, like I was the one making things difficult. "I made a mistake," he said. "This was never supposed to happen. We should forget it. Just like that. Forget it." As if I hadn't given him pieces of myself I could never take back. As if I hadn't believed every lie he had told me. I wanted to scream, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain I was feeling. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. He had already made his decision. I walked away, refusing to let him see me break. But the moment I was alone, the tears came. It wasn't just the heartbreak. It was the betrayal. The realization that I had been nothing more than a mistake to him. The worst part? I still wanted him to turn around, to stop me, to tell me he didn't mean it. But he never did. The pain didn't fade overnight. It clung to me, filling every quiet moment, turning memories into wounds that refused to heal. I kept replaying his words, hoping to find some hidden meaning, some reason that would make it hurt less. But there was nothing. Just cold, empty truth. I stopped waiting for him to explain, to apologize. He never did. And slowly, I began to understand that he never would. People like him never looked back. They moved on, leaving behind the wreckage of what they had broken. For weeks, I carried the weight of it alone. I avoided places that reminded me of him, deleted our conversations, pushed down the ache in my chest whenever I saw him in class. I refused to let him see how much he had destroyed me. But healing didn't come from erasing him. It came from facing the truth. What we had was never real. He had never loved me, at least not in the way I had loved him. And that wasn't my fault. I started writing again, pouring my emotions onto pages that only I would see. The words didn't change the past, but they helped me understand it. Helped me let go. One day, he tried to speak to me, a casual remark after class as if nothing had happened. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw him for what he was, not the man I had built up in my mind, but someone weak, someone incapable of real love. And just like that, the hold he had on me began to break. I didn't need closure from him. I was finding it on my own. As time passed, the pain dulled. I focused on myself, on my dreams, on people who truly cared for me. And eventually I met someone new. Someone who didn't make love feel like a secret or a mistake. Someone who chose me without hesitation. Looking back, I realized he had done me a favor. He had taught me the difference between real love and empty promises. And for that, I was grateful. Because in the end, I didn't need him. I never did.